Hi everyone. So for my chapter, I chose to do chapter 6, which is on positivity in the classroom. So I'm just going to go over some of the common misconceptions that we get when we're talking about positivity in the classroom, as well as some strategies that we can use as educators to foster positivity. And it's not what you may think. So, one of the common misconceptions that we get with positivity in the classroom is that positivity in a classroom can be fueled by affirmations such as, good job, that was great, you're so smart. And although those may help encourage students, it's actually a lot more intricate than we may think when it comes to positivity in the classroom. So, what it needs to be really is a conscious effort from both the educators and the students to create that learning. It doesn't happen right away, rather it's a series of small steps towards creating a positive environment. So to begin, we want to talk about how positivity can be fostered in the classroom. And at the beginning of the chapter, it talks about how language can be used. So as we mentioned, positive affirmations can work for the students, such as like good job, great work, etc. But it's more about how our language can create a barrier between, or a divide between, those who we think are going to excel and those who maybe struggle a bit more. And maybe unconsciously as educators, we give more time and more effort and more praise to those who we think will succeed and less to those who we think may not succeed as academics. So this is really important for educators to pay attention to as the first step to creating a positive classroom environment. Because although some educators may not realize it, it's been backed up with studies that educators have their own bias as to who they think is going to be excel in academically compared to other students, and therefore they're creating more time. So watching our language is super important because we want to make sure that we are creating equal opportunities for every student to learn and succeed in the classroom. So now that we have a better understanding of how language can affect a positive environment, I want to go over 3 different strategies that are mentioned in chapter 6 for dealing with those students who may be having some issues in class. Maybe there's a problem, maybe they're like a quote unquote slow learner, or they're just seem to be having some issues. So there's 3 different strategies on how, as educators, we can shift our language to help those students rather than hinder them. So for strategy number 1, it's called reframing. So basically what we're doing is we're taking language that typically has more negative connotations with it and shifting that language to be more positive and more open. So one of the examples of this could be perhaps a student is more shy. We don't want to say shy because that gives them a name and that gives them only a specific understanding about themselves. Like once they understand that name for them, they're going to go, oh, I'm shy, that's all I am. Even though there's countless examples of them being outgoing, but once you have that idea, it kind of sticks with the student, like, oh, I'm just shy, oh, I'm just like not that smart academically, and so on and so forth. So instead of using the language for shy, we would use perhaps that student is more thoughtful. So we want to watch our language to make sure that we're not giving negative meaning to a student's personality traits, basically. So strategy number 2 is called externalizing. So basically what externalizing is taking the problem as not this is Johnny's problem and taking it as like more of like this is a problem that is happening to Johnny. So you're separating the person from the problem. So an example of this could be Johnny is bad. That's just giving him like a blanket statement, like he is bad, that's all he's going to think now. Instead, we're going to shift that language to Johnny is showing bad behavior. So therefore, we separated the person from the behavior or issue. So our last strategy is called exception finding. And basically what that is that although Johnny is dealing with bad behavior, he has his good days and he has his bad. So not every day is going to be terrible behavior. So let's say there's an example that is in the webinar. So Johnny is having a terrible day, so he's having a day 1. And he won't get to 10. He won't get to that perfect day where he has the best behavior, but maybe he'll get to a 5 on one day. So what you're going to want to do is look at that specific day where Johnny's having relatively good behavior and say, what is affecting this behavior? Why is Johnny behaving better today compared to other days? Are there other external factors such as home, stress, like family life, any other sleep, food, anything like that? So we want to look at what Johnny's going through and then see if we can get more of those day, like 5 level days instead of the 1 level days. Okay, so now that we understand a bit more about how language affects a positive classroom environment and how educators can shift their language, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about growth mindset versus like fixed mindset. So those are pretty common terms, I'd say. I've heard of them before. So a fixed mindset is basically you are set with your strengths and your weaknesses, and that's it. You can never like improve those. That's just your capacity. So let's say, for example, that your IQ is 110 and that's it. That's all you're going to stay at. And you may be really strong in English, like language subjects, but really not as strong in math subjects. So with a fixed mindset, basically you're going to believe that for the rest of your life, and a fixed mindset believes that you can never improve those weaknesses and your strengths are just your strengths and that's it. But the problem with this is that it creates a lot of negativity in the classroom and a lot of competition in the classroom because students realize that these are my weaknesses, I can never improve them, therefore I'm going to give up, I'm going to have a negative view towards these subjects, and it causes them maybe to not try as hard in, let's say, the math subjects if they struggle in that. And so on the other hand, we have a growth mindset. So a growth mindset is basically, yes, these are your strengths and weaknesses, but with practice and support and help, you can improve those weaknesses and you can improve those strengths, and there's no like capacity, there's no limit. Your education, your learning is limitless. Although they say that because from 0 to 25, your brain is still like developing, the neuroplasticity of your brain is most like adaptable then. So you're going to do most of your learning from 0 to 25. But that being said, the growth mindset believes that you can continue and learn and grow and adapt as throughout your whole life, pretty much. With a growth and fixed mindset, there's two different approaches that educators can take for this, that being the strengths approach or the deficits approach. A strengths approach is basically when the educator only focuses on those students' specific strengths and their unique talents and abilities. So they're going to want to foster that growth through paying attention to their strengths and seeing with support how far that they can push those to help the students improve. But on the other hand, with a deficit approach, they're going to only focus on the student's weaknesses. And this can be really like negative for the student to be only focusing on constantly like, oh, you're not very good at math, therefore we're going to only spend time on math and only spend time on your weaknesses, and really point out the flaws with students. And that's not going to help to create positivity, because when you only focus on the negative, that student's going to have a really negative mindset because that's all they're taught and that's all they're focusing on. So it's really important that as educators we balance that and focus more on the student's strengths and encourage their strengths and their unique abilities and talents, and maybe focus a little more on uplifting and making a positive approach to subjects that they're a bit like less strong in. That being said, still working on that growth mindset, so encouraging students being able to continue to learn and to grow. With this approach to teaching, it helps students focus more on their resilience and helps build resilience, which is basically the ability to overcome any situation, stressors, anything. So it really helps those students when they believe in themselves that they can do it and they feel confident that they have a growth mindset and that they are able to learn and do anything with some support. So now that we have a better understanding of growth and fixed mindset, as well as language that can help foster a positive classroom environment, we really want to focus on how us as educators can work towards getting rid of our biases and assumptions about students. And this is really important because although we're teaching the students about having a positive attitude and a growth mindset, we need to be doing the work ourselves in order to create that ideal classroom and to see the potential in our students. So lastly, now that we have a good understanding of that, I just want to go over the last, strategy you could call it, and it's 10 micro moments of positive emotion. So basically it's 10 different things that create positive energy or emotion in the classroom that educators can use to help foster that positive environment. For our micro moments of positive emotions, I have the list on a webinar to my right, so I'm just going to read them all off in order. There's 10 of them, so we're going to start with joy. So joy is associated with our most pleasant experiences and raises well-being and discovery to a high level. Next is gratitude. Gratitude connects us with others and helps us focus on strengths and possibilities. Then serenity is associated with periods of contemplation and focus rather than distraction. Interest fuels curiosity, discovery, and engagement. Hope supports optimism and anticipation of the future, as well as the belief that problems can be surmounted. Next is pride. So pride is connected to a feeling of being valued and caring about one's accomplishments. Then amusement. So amusement supports engagement with others and playful discovery. Inspiration provides an emotional lift, greater commitment, and enthusiasm for the future. Awe promotes feelings of discovery, wonder, and curiosity. And lastly, love promotes strong affection towards others and deep connections, as well as strong feelings of self-worth and compassion. So it's really important that we use these micro moments of positive emotion in our classroom to create that relationship with our students that we want and to create that positive environment in the classroom. Those are all the key takeaways that you'll get from Chapter 6 on positivity. I found this chapter really inspiring and insightful because it's interesting how they take a look at the relationship between the educator and the student rather than just a so-called positive classroom, and really focus on those little things that educators can do to help create a positive environment and create positivity within each student.